Representatives are here. Do we have anything before we bring the jury in this morning?
Just briefly, Your Honor, in regard to the intercepted communication between Lynne Blake and Karen Tobie on, I believe it was October the 7th or 8th.
In the police car.
Yes. And there was a reference in there to our client, Mr. Cooper. Based upon that evidence coming in, we're renewing our motion to sever and moving for a mistrial because that evidence was highly inflammatory, implies that there are warrants of any given variety out for him, and that is evidence that is logically and legally irrelevant.
All right, thank you. The motion for the mistrial is denied. Did you have another? Were there two?
It was a combined motion to sever and
oh yeah, right. Motion to sever.
We'd have to have a mistrial.
Right. Motion to sever is denied at this time as well.
And
are we ready?
Move the podium here when I do my examination so that I can.
Sure.
Tip it over
after everybody gets in and seated and so on. Anything else before we bring the jury in?
Got one more.
Uh-oh. All right.
This is one.
We had discussed jury instructions and verdict forms. I'd like you to go ahead and do that. I'm going to get up to Putnam County this weekend, though, so I might try to get a set of those myself.
Can I throw something out? Just in doing that, I've done in the past with when there are two defendants. Have, for the elements of each charge, have a separate instruction for each defendant, but for the common definitions to have one. So in other words, like the first degree murder, the elements we define as each defendant, using their names and victim name for each defendant, but then the part that defines premeditation just at the end one time. So you're not giving two full instructions, but you're defining the elements as to each defendant.
Right, you're talking about the portion of the instructions that are essentially definitions.
Yes, sir. Usually, after the elements.
Right, it says such and such means, and then that we just have that one time.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I'm in favor of that simply because it avoids reading it several times, but we'll take a look at that on the instructions themselves. Need a verdict form, of course. In fact, actually, I think we ought to have two verdict forms, two separate verdict forms.
Yes, sir, that's what I plan to do.
Okay.
May I ask a reporter? I think I'll be able to see this lady, but. Okay. Police court.
Yes.
Your Honor, given the extraordinary circumstances, it's not normal that we have the proceedings available by internet, but we do in this case. So it has an unusual impact on the rule. People unknowingly might not think that watching the feed, the live feed, would be a violation of the rule, but it would be as if they were in the courtroom. So those people need to be made aware they should not be watching the live feed of the proceedings on the internet.
The jurors.
No, the witnesses.
The rule of sequestration.
The rule of sequestration.
Ah, okay, all right. Okay. I don't know that we mentioned that to them.
It's implicit in your instructions.
Yeah, I don't know we said the internet, though. Okay. If we have witnesses here, we can, in fact, if we have witnesses here right now, while we're waiting for the jury, we can instruct them on that. So do we have any?
We don't have any.
No.
I saw
A lot of our witnesses don't probably have internet access.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning. Good morning. It appears for the record that the entire panel of the jury is present and accounted for. The parties are present, the representatives are present, and we will continue with our evidentiary portion of the trial. And I believe that Ms. Blake was on the stand and we were about to start the cross-examination. Okay, and who is going to lead off? I will. All right, very good. Will you bring the witness, please? All right, Ms. Blake is present.
Can you please swear?
Yes.
Good morning, Ms. Blake.
Good morning.
What year was it that you separated from and began divorce proceedings from Ron Blake?
I'm not really positive. It's been a while.
Approximately the year 2000?
Yes, sir.
It was after John and Karen had married.
No, sir.
Before?
Yes, sir.
And for a period of time, you lived in the marital domicile and Ron moved out, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it's not the case that you immediately moved in with Karen and John.
True.
But there did come a time when Ron moved back into your marital domicile and you moved into the adjacent duplex where Karen and John were living.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, you had transportation provided by Mr. Catania.
Yes, sir.
You had shelter. You had a house to live in provided by Mr. Catania.
Yes, sir.
You cared for and provided a constant 24/7 care for Karen before the baby was even born.
Yes, sir.
She had not only a drinking problem, but she also was on prescribed medication, was she not?
Yes, sir.
And many times when she would mix her beer or whatever her alcohol of choice for the day was, she would mix the pills with the alcohol, correct?
Yes, sir.
And during those periods of time anyway, she would be not lucid at all, is that correct?
Not very often was she not lucid.
Okay, all right. At any rate, there came a time when Karen was pregnant, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were very excited about this pregnancy, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
You wanted that baby to be born.
Yes, sir.
And actually, Karen and John had some reservations
Yes, sir.
because Karen had difficulty with prior pregnancies.
Yes, sir.
And there were abortion was being considered.
Yes, sir.
You talked them out of it.
Yes, sir.
You were present when a sonogram was done, and you could see the baby.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And you could hear the baby's heartbeat.
Yes, sir.
And you're not one to cry very often, right?
No, sir.
But that did bring tears to your eyes.
Yes, it did.
And you were happy and very elated that this baby was going to come into the world.
Yes, sir.
Karen was almost like a daughter to you. You were that close, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
And it was as if you were going to have a grandchild.
Exactly.
And then the baby was born, little baby Lewis.
Yes, sir.
And you continued to care for Karen.
Yes, sir.
You continued to have shelter.
Yes, sir.
You continued to drive around a nice SUV.
Yes, sir.
And you had significance in the world, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You were a caregiver
Yes, sir.
for a little baby and a lady that had a lot of emotional and physiological problems.
Yes, sir.
It was as if it was your own little Camelot, right?
I wouldn't go that far.
But you were happy.
I was quite content.
You weren't happy when Karen reported to you that on February the 14th, 2004, John had told her that she was going to lose little Lewis and that he was going to take Lewis away and divorce Karen.
Actually, that's not true. John told me himself.
But isn't it true that Karen told you first?
No,
that
sir.
John told him?
No, John told me first.
We'll talk about that because you gave a lot of statements, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, I gave several statements.
And about in hours, probably well over 12 hours of statements combined.
I would say at least that.
Well over total, well over 600 pages, almost 1,000 pages.
Yes, sir.
And initially,
If I may interpose objection, I think counsel should be asking questions. I think he is some of the time, but other times it's just a running narrative, and I ask that we use a proper procedure. Thank you.
I'm asking about a prior statement.
I think it's been proper. I will overrule that objection.
You made a statement on 6/30, June the 30th, 2004, at the police department, correct?
Yes, sir.
You made statements out in Seattle, correct?
No,
You never talked to the police out there?
I was totally under the weather. I was totally medicated.
Okay.
I have no recollection of what happened in Seattle.
You normally don't even use drugs though, right?
No, I don't.
Seldom even drink.
Very seldom.
But after John died, you were taking drugs just like as if you were Karen. I mean,
No, sir.
You just told us that you were heavily medicated.
For one purpose,
For what?
because I knew that
Excuse me, Your Honor, if I may, I believe we need to approach, counsel, well, we think we need to approach on this.
All right, I think we're ready to get started again. Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to remind you, at the beginning of the trial, I gave you a general instruction that if a question is not answered in any way, you're not to speculate on what it could have been, and we'll go on from there.
Your Honor, we need to approach something that happened when we were up there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more thing to discuss. It's going to require discussing that out of your presence. So I'm going to ask you at this time if you would go into the jury room. I expect this not to be very long, 5 minutes perhaps. Yes, and I should have said also, leave your notepads out here. Would you please relate to the, Mr. Bailiff, that the court invokes its usual do not discuss the case? Okay, well, it's on the record as to what, I did not see what happened. My back was to that area as we were discussing the bench conference, but would whoever wishes to go forward with this matter go forward?
Well, my question would be, I guess the court would probably be more proper to inquire than I would, but I saw what I believe to be a conversation between the witness and one of the jurors, and I don't know what it was about, and I saw her mouthing words to the jurors. One of the, someone in, maybe it was, if you could just ask her.
Yes, okay, we want to clear that up. Ms. Blake, we had a conference here, we were huddled to my right. You are on my left, so my back was to you. I didn't see anything. It's been reported that there was some exchange between you and somebody.
I was speaking to him, and the lady asked for, she said something like she wanted a butterscotch instead, and I was looking at him and I said, yeah, that coats your throat better. That's all it was.
All right, and for the record, indeed, our bailiff does pass out butterscotch.
But I was speaking to him.
Is that what happened, sir?
I did not hear anything she said.
Okay.
I was talking to juror number 12 who was coughing, and while her cough dropped, she said she better have butterscotch, so I went back and got her a butterscotch. And then that's as much as I had exchanged. I didn't hear anything she said.
All right.
All right, now, Ms. Blake, you are cautioned that you are not to speak to anyone in this courtroom.
Okay.
You can speak to the bailiff if you have some personal need,
No problem.
but other than that, nobody else, and certainly not to any juror.
Oh,
Understand
definitely
that?
not.
Any further voir dire on this?
No, Your Honor, but we're moving for a mistrial. We believe that's an improper communication with the jury, even though it may have been indirect. Nevertheless, if it's in earshot of any of the jurors, she's currying the favor of the jurors. That's totally improper. No way that taint can be removed. We're moving for a mistrial. Deprives Mr. Cooper of due process of law, a fair trial, and an impartial jury. She's trying to influence this jury improperly. She probably did it, and there's no way that the court can remove it, that taint.
We would join in, Your Honor, adopt those arguments.
Just for the record, Your Honor, it's my understanding, Ms. Blake, that she was talking to Deputy Wickman. He may not have heard her, but that's what her comment was directed towards. So I want to make it clear for the record. I believe that's
All
what
right, is that, would you again make that clear for the record? Who were you
Yes,
talking to?
I was talking to the bailiff.
All right,
Could we get on the record exactly what she said to the bailiff? Your Honor?
yes.
I said it would coat your throat better.
Coat your throat better.
Yes, sir.
Could the record also reflect that the bailiff was right at the jury box and within hearing, and Ms. Blake was within hearing distance of the juror? Like the record that reflects that.
Actually, he
I don't know if
wasn't.
any juror heard it, but she was, the locations and the situation you described is accurate.
Thank you.
Is there anything further on this matter? All right, the motion for mistrial is denied. But again, the witness is cautioned.
Yes.
Out of an abundance of caution, don't say anything. And if the bailiff is standing where he is or anywhere near where he is, near the jury, don't even say anything to him.
Okay,
Okay?
no problem.
Your Honor, one minute. The court, I asked that the court ask defense to withdraw his question in front of the jury, and then the judge to instruct it there to disregard any questions that aren't answered or that were withdrawn, something like that.
Okay.
Or I guess if Your Honor wants to ask defense, you're withdrawing your question, how it works, but I'd like the jury to know the questions being withdrawn and to not speculate with regard to the answer.
Okay. All right, Mr. Mott, you ready to proceed?
One second.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor, we're ready to proceed.
All right. Let us bring the jury back in. All right, let the record reflect that the jury is present and accounted for. The parties are present. The representatives are present. Mr. Mott was in his cross-examination. Mr. Mott, are you withdrawing your last?
I will withdraw my last question.
Okay, and again, the same instruction to the jury that you shouldn't speculate on any question that's either sustained on an objection or withdrawn. All right, Mr. Mott, go right ahead.
I believe that we were talking, just to get back on track here, Ms. Blake, things were pretty good at the Catania home where you lived and you cared for little Louie and also for Karen, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, Louie was really special to you, wasn't he?
Yes, sir.
And part of that is, and you've told us this before, but part of that was because you had 3 children yourself, right?
Yes, sir.
But you had very little to do with their upbringing.
Yes, sir.
And you felt like Louie was a second chance, if not the last chance, for you to be a good mother or grandmother.
Yes, sir.
Now, you mentioned on direct examination that you had infant polio,
Yes, sir. And spinal meningitis.
and you had rheumatic fever or scarlet
Yes,
fever or
sir.
something?
Rheumatic fever.
And a lot of illnesses,
Yes, sir.
and all at one time.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you told the police that you were legally dead several times in your life.
3 times to be exact.
3 times. You're also a lip reader,
Yes, sir.
and you can also cry out of one side of your face.
Yes, sir. I can do it right now if you'd like me to prove it to you.
You can do it right now on
Yes, sir.
command?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
It'll happen.
And in fact, you did that, or you told the police you did that, on October the 7th of 2004, or October the 6th of 2004, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the reason that you did that is because you didn't want to allow Karen Tobie to see how emotionally distraught you were over your contemplating at that moment, driving back to Orlando, of going to the police and saying, Karen Tobie killed her husband and had Ty Cooper or someone else do it. That's what you were emotionally torn about, isn't it?
Yes, I was.
And you didn't want to reveal that to Karen Tobie.
No, I didn't.
So you therefore had a stoic right side of your face,
Yes, sir.
and on the left side of your face, you were emotionally distraught.
Yes, sir.
You told the police that the tears were flowing
Yes, sir.
like a flood.
Well, not like a flood, but
But
I was crying.
you were crying.
Yes, sir.
Not just a little tear coming
No.
out of your eye, but crying.
I was crying.
Because you, in your heart, were contemplating having to turn in to save yourself, and you're turning against really what would be your own daughter.
No, it wasn't turning against. It was coming forth with the truth. It wasn't turning against her.
She'd been to see her attorney,
Yes,
right?
sir. She had.
That attorney's name is James Dowse, right?
Yes, sir.
And originally, in the tape, we hear about a firm here in town called Cobb and Cole. You're aware of that, right?
Yes, sir.
Probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest, and most prestigious law firm in this town, correct?
I have no idea.
And that's how James Dowse came into the picture, correct? Cobb and Cole referred Miss Tobie to James Dowse, isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
And James Dowse, an Orlando attorney, is the son of a retired judge, isn't he?
I have no idea.
He's a reputable attorney, though. He isn't some shyster.
I don't know. I can't confirm that yes or no.
And part of your dilemma on October the 5th and 6th was that the police, you know now, were playing games with you, and they were telling you that Karen must be telling her attorney, James Dowse, that you did it because James Dowse is telling them that you need to take a real close look at Lynne Blake. She did it. Isn't that true?
That's what they told me and what Karen told me.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
That's what she told me herself.
Karen Tobie told you herself. She wasn't hiding anything from you, was she?
No.
Karen Tobie told you herself more than one time that her attorney, James Dowse in Orlando, who was referred by Cobb and Cole here in Daytona, told her to stay away from you. Get away
Yes.
from you.
At the very end, yes.
And that you were going to go down for the murder of John Catania.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And on October the 5th, Mr. Sean McGuire, well, first of all, let's, on the tape, of the wire, when you were, well, not really wired because it wasn't a listening device. In other words, while you were in Karen's house, on the 7th, this was the 7th of October, right?
Yes, sir.
You were in her house, you had a recording device, but it wasn't a listening device, right? Meaning that the police weren't hearing what you were hearing live. They had to listen to the tape afterwards.
Yes, sir.
The digital recorder, right?
Yes, sir.
And part of that was a conversation that Miss Tobie was having with Mr. Downs,
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
because she said, the police are here, and I've done exactly what you told me to do. I've handed the police your card. That's what she said, right?
Yes, sir.
And on there too, she mentioned something about her lawyer saying that Sean McGuire couldn't be trusted.
That, I don't recall that part of the conversation.
Didn't she say words to the effect that Sean McGuire would lie about what cereal he had for breakfast?
She said that. That's not the lawyer.
But she was on the phone with the lawyer.
Yeah, but that doesn't make the lawyer saying it. She's the one that said that. He didn't.
But anyways, getting back to your first meeting with Mr. McGuire on October the 5th. Now, up until October the 5th, you had done nothing but lie to the police, correct?
I just didn't tell them anything.
You didn't tell them anything?
I told them I didn't know anything.
Well, on June the 30th, the night of the murder, you gave a statement that was 12 pages. That's a little bit more than saying, I don't know anything.
Well, they were asking me several different questions, but I said I knew nothing about the murder.
I mean, I could go through them line by line.
Yes, sir. And I'm sure I can recall
Basically, you lied.
pretty much exactly what I said also.
And pretty much bottom line is, without going line by line like doing taxes, you lied to them over and over.
Yes, I did.
And you lied to them every single time you had encounters with them up and through, including October the 5th.
No, sir.
Would you start telling the truth on October the 5th?
They were talking to me, and they gave me a lot of information and told me that I need to go home and think about it.
Yeah, let me talk to you about that. That's what I'm getting to, so you kind of anticipated. They gave you a lot of information, didn't they?
About what I was looking at.
Yeah. And also, this is true. On October the 5th, it was the police, not you. We can go through it, it's right here. But it was the police, not you, who brought up Mr. Ty Cooper's name.
I'm not really, no, because Karen, while she was at Mr.
Your Honor, I'm gonna-
No, okay, no.
It's not
The
true.
answer is no, it's not true.
Do you have a copy of your October the 5th statement?
No, I don't.
Did you get a subpoena ducis tecum?
Yes, I did.
Did that subpoena not say bring all the papers that you have?
No, it didn't. Actually, I didn't get a subpoena.
Pardon?
I didn't get a subpoena to come to court.
Well, you have copies of all these
Yes, I do.
transcripts, right?
Yes, I do.
Do you want to take the time to go through here?
I don't have them with me.
Well,
No, it's not proper impeachment. If counsel has a question to ask about it, can do that. And I also object because the witness isn't being allowed to answer a question. It may not be in that deposition about, the statement that made. So
The appropriate procedure, obviously, here is impeachment. If she fails to recall something, you can, you know this, you
Sure.
can give her the statement to see if that refreshes her
I
recollection.
believe what we're talking about here is that on October the 5th, 2004, it was the police who brought up Ty Cooper's name and not you. That's the question. You say no.
No.
Then, Your Honor, I'll hand her the transcript. Or if the court has a clean transcript.
I do not.
Rather lengthy. So 177 pages long. You want to show me in there where you told Borelli?
Your Honor, I think the proper
Where,
method...
let me finish the question, please. You want to tell me where in there, show this jury where in there you told the police, you were the first one to bring up Ty's name and said Ty Cooper's involved in this?
The first time that Ty Cooper's name was brought up was Karen told...
Objection, Your Honor. That's not responsive to the question.
Your Honor,
It is.
Wait, stop now. Stop.
I believe it is responsible. I asked the witness to be allowed to answer the question, and that's what I'm referring to, is that there may have been other conversations where something else occurred to help explain that. That's one objection. The second objection is counsel is...
Speaking objection.
All right, let me deal with that one objection first. We'll take these one at a time. The objection here is as to the procedure. I think the question is, can you find in this transcript where you
First told the police
first told the police?
that Ty was involved in this, as opposed to the police first telling you.
Can you find it in the transcript? All right, that's an appropriate question.
I'd like to pose an objection to that. The question, the proper impeachment is for counsel to refer to a section where perhaps it's the first time to ask her about that. Proper impeachment is not to give the witness, say, witness, read this 100
I'm objecting to a speaking objection.
Well, it's improper impeachment. He should direct the witness to a certain portion and ask the witness about that. That's how a witness should be impeached.
That is the normal procedure, but in this point, he simply asked her a question. Can you find that in here that you mentioned it to the police? She either can or she can't, and then he can point it out.
I don't know exactly where it's at.
There's 177 pages there, ma'am. I don't recall ever seeing it in there, so you're going to have to show me. That's
No, I object to counsel testifying now.
That is improper. Your observation, that's improper. I'll sustain that.
All right. Could you please show me in that transcript where you first told the police Mr. Borelli, Mr. McGuire, Tyshwan Cooper was involved in this, as opposed to in that transcript, the first time Ty Cooper's name coming up was by Detective Investigator McGuire and Borelli?
Your Honor, again, I'm objecting to this is a different question, and I think counsel has made clear, we're talking just about this statement, or are we including other times when either she or Mr. Cooper's name was mentioned by other people? He's asked a separate question now.
The question that I think we're working on here is in this particular statement of what is the date?
October the 5th, 2004, at the Holly Hill Police Department with Detective Joe Borelli and Investigator Sean McGuire.
Is it in there where the witness told the police about this subject?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a proper question. Let's give her time to look through the transcript.
Okay, on page 40, I believe that's the first time that Investigator McGuire mentions Tyshawn Cooper.
That's correct. Line 40, or page 40, line 23, it's Sean McGuire who brings up Ty Cooper's name. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, may I approach the witness and retrieve the transcript?
You may.
Before that page and that line, that's page 40, line 23. Before that point in time in that interview, the name Ty Cooper never came up in it.
Not with Mr. McGuire, no.
Not in this transcript.
No, sir.
Have you been able to do the left-right crying thing
Oh,
yet?
no, I didn't know you wanted to do it right
Do you have to
now.
concentrate when you do that?
Yes, sir.
Now, not only did the police bring up Ty Cooper's name, they handed you photocopies of law, did they not?
Yes, they did.
They handed you the law of first-degree murder, did they not?
Yes, sir.
So you're getting a lot of information from the police, aren't you?
Yes.
You're getting more information from them than they're getting from you on October the 5th.
Considerably.
So you're like on a reconnaissance mission at the Holly Hill Police Department. You're going to find out what the police know because you think that they're sneaking up on you.
Actually, I didn't go there for that purpose. They called me in.
In any event, you get the law of first-degree murder, correct?
Yes, sir.
You get the law of principles, correct?
Yes, sir.
The law of solicitation, right?
Yes, sir.
And the law of conspiracy,
Yes, sir.
correct? And Sean McGuire tells you at some point in time on October the 5th, you need to take this home, and you need to think about this, lady, because Karen Tobie is throwing you under the bus. And the time's coming, crunch time's coming, and people are going down. And Karen Tobie says, you're going down. But it's time to make a decision here. And that's when, it's kind of like a game of deal or no deal, wasn't it? I mean, they wanted to know if you wanted to do a deal or not, right?
No, at that point, they didn't.
Pardon?
They didn't ask me to make a deal.
Now, yesterday, you said on direct examination that at the end of the day on the 5th, you kind of let the police know that you were not coming clean with the truth, right?
Yes.
I understand that, right?
Yes, sir.
But it's true as well, is it not, that well into the interview, matter of fact, toward the end of the interview on page 142, Sean McGuire had you raise your right hand like you
Yes.
did in this courtroom?
Yes, sir.
And you swore to tell the truth,
Yes, sir.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I did.
Now, the plea deal that you ended up with was you can walk out of jail when this case is over on probation, can't you?
Not to my knowledge.
You're not aware that that's an option?
No.
Not at all?
No, I could get life.
You could get life. True.
It's 0 to life.
0 is what?
Right.
What's 0 to you?
It means no time.
Means you get out of jail.
Yes, sir.
So it is true that you can get out of jail.
Eventually, yeah.
So it's not necessarily true that you're going to serve the rest of your time in prison in this case, is it?
I would certainly hope not.
So the truth of the matter is, the deal, and the deal or no deal game that started on October the 5th is, if you pass the performance test, you could get probation. Isn't that true?
I don't think so. Because I didn't make any deals.
You made no deal? Did you
I made
not-
no deals with anybody.
Did you not? You were looking at first-degree murder punishable by death, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
You were looking at first-degree murder punishable by death or life in prison with no parole, right?
Yes, sir.
Those were the only two options. That's what you were looking at.
Yes, sir.
You're not looking at that anymore, are you?
Not death, no.
And not life without parole. I mean, even life with parole is better than
I don't
life with no
know.
parole.
Well, to me, 10 years is life to me. I'm 58 years old now. 68, that's to me, that's life.
Well, let me ask you this, ma'am. You don't call that a deal?
No, I don't.
Okay, good enough. You don't expect to be rewarded in any way for cooperating with the state and doing what Sean McGuire and Detective Borelli wanted you to do?
No, sir.
You remember on 10/7, you went back to the police department after you wore that body bug, right?
Yes, sir.
You talked to Sean McGuire. You went up to the police station. You said, I'm here to see Sean McGuire, right?
Yes, sir.
They took you right in there, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
And Sean McGuire, the first thing he said, "Old man, I tell you what, you did really good, really good." That's what he told you, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
And then you talk about what's on the tape, because he hadn't had time yet to listen to the tape, but you're kind of summarizing what happened, right?
Yes, sir.
Then on page 5, you had a copy of that, didn't you? You had the benefit of that transcript?
I'm not sure which one it was.
Page 7, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and you may have said this, and I apologize. So the part about McGuire, to make clear, that was on 10/7, correct? Not 10/6?
10/7, yeah. 10/7.
Oh, thank you.
Transcript of your conversation with Sean McGuire when you returned to the Holly Hill Police Department after being at 319 Center Avenue wearing the recording device that we heard a recording of right here.
Yes, sir.
If you had the benefit of reviewing that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on page 7, line 7, Sean McGuire says to you, "Okay, but you know at some point we're going to have to deal with you." You say, "Yeah." And Investigator McGuire says, "And things like you did today really help, okay? It really does. It goes a lot to your credibility, right? And you say right, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Sean McGuire says, and other issues. So thank you."
Yes, sir.
And then there was a day, December the 12th, 2005, when you were before Judge Foxman. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
And you have had an attorney ever since your arrest on this charge, right?
Yes, sir.
So you've had the benefit of an attorney.
Yes, sir.
And your attorney was present in court with you before Judge Foxman,
Yes, sir.
right? And in that proceeding, Judge Foxman told you that the deal that you got was 0 to life, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the deal wasn't 0 to life without parole, right?
No, sir.
Because you also pled to a less serious offense,
Yes, sir.
second-degree murder.
Yes, sir.
And it was explained to you by the judge and your attorney that a life sentence for second-degree murder is eligible for parole.
Yes, sir.
When was the last time that you spoke with Mr. McGuire?
Approximately a week ago.
You remember when we came out, myself that is, and Mr. Dowdy and Mr. Davis, court
Yes.
reporter, we came out to the Volusia County Corrections Facility, talked to you on the 9th of January, right?
Yes, sir.
You talked to Investigator McGuire since then? After that deposition?
I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if he was that.
You have a hard time with times, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Why as well?
Because it wasn't, there was no reason for me to retain that information.
Now, throughout your statements, and let's have an understanding here about the nature of these statements. The statements up through and including October the 6th and 7th of 2004. Those were all statements made by police, right?
Not necessarily.
Made to the police.
To the police, yes.
Gotcha. In other words, they were police interrogations.
Yes, sir.
They weren't depositions with lawyers present and so forth.
No, sir.
Okay. And then you gave a deposition to myself and the attorneys for Miss Tobie back in September of 2006, right?
Yes, sir.
And you gave us another deposition on the 9th, right?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true, Ms. Blake, that throughout the statements that you made to the police, you constantly, be fair to say, wouldn't it? You constantly or repeatedly referred to, we were looking for a gun. You were involved in that, weren't you?
I was involved to the extent that I drove her around, but I never asked anybody, not one single soul, did I ever ask for a gun. If I'd have wanted a gun, I could have got a gun.
Ed, from the Outlaws.
Or several other people.
Now, you're a convicted felon, right?
Yes, I am.
So you're not allowed to own a firearm.
That's right.
But the fact of the matter is, you were in possession of that
That's
pistol.
precisely why I got rid of it.
But you were in possession of it for weeks and weeks.
No, not weeks and weeks.
Well, 1 minute.
Yes, sir, that's,
That violates the law of the state of Florida.
yes, it did.
You had the gun, Karen didn't.
Right.
You, according to your story, had the money and gave it to Ty.
When we went to see Ty, she had the money in her possession.
Did you not give the money to Ty?
I handed it to him, yes, I did. She said, hand it to him, I handed him the money.
Ed Foley knew about you wanting to get a gun, right?
Yes, he did.
You talked to him about it,
Yes,
didn't you?
Karen did.
And you talked to him as well. you were present.
I was there present with several of the conversations.
And he knew that you wanted the gun, and it was told to Ed Foley that you wanted the gun for protection. Isn't that true?
That's what she said. That's what she told Ed at first.
Because John was away, sometimes through the night, traveling all over the state of Florida, right?
True.
And the reason for that was because he had recently gotten a contract with Home Depot. And it wasn't one of these contracts, was it, where Home Depot would call him and say, hey, go over to the Smith residence. They want a new sink installed. And it wasn't that type of contract, was it?
No.
He actually did the work on the Home Depot facilities.
Yes, sir.
So if they had a plumbing problem at a facility, he had to go to the facility.
Yes, sir.
Whether it's in Jacksonville or Lakeland or Tampa or wherever.
True.
And the consequence of that is true, is it not? John had to be away from the house all hours of the day and night.
Yes, sir.
And so the story that was told to Ed Foley was, we need a gun for protection because John's away all the time.
Right.
Now, on direct examination, it's my notes indicate that you told us that Karen Tobie told Ty Cooper that she needed a gun to kill her husband because of John beating her all the time, and that she showed him a big bruise on her body.
Yes, sir.
Is that true?
That's true.
And you heard that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Now, you remember on your deposition, which would have been back in September, we were out at the Volusia County Branch Jail, right?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Davis was present, Mr. Dowdy, Mr. Nielsen, court reporter, myself. You were sworn to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
And on page 103 of that statement, line 11, you tell us that I knew about her wanting to kill John, but Tai Schwan wasn't involved in that part then. All he was doing was supplying a gun. Is that what you said?
Yes, at that point, yes.
And in fact, in other statements, and I'll find them if you want me to, in other statements you had told us or the police that the reason that Karen Tobie told Tai Schwan that she needed a gun was because John was going to take Lewis from her.
That came up later in later conversations.
Okay. Now that's not the first time that happened, is it? The way that you explain inconsistencies is you add the number of times you had conversations, right?
Every conversation was different.
Okay. Now your house is a duplex, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't like air conditioning.
No,
You don't use air conditioning.
very seldom.
It's typical for you to have your windows open
Yes, sir.
and your drapes or blinds open.
Drapes.
Drapes open, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at 319 Center Avenue, there's exterior lights, isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
Now, are they the type that you have to turn on, or are they the motion type?
They're not motion. They come on at dusk.
They come on automatically?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you live in a duplex that was right next to John and Karen.
Yes, sir. That's what a duplex is.
You could see from your house with your windows open and your blinds open, you could see John come and go to their unit, could you not?
If I were standing up and looking out the window, yes.
But there's nothing to obstruct your view. There's not a wall.
No.
There's not a partition. There's not a big hedge. It's just two driveways with basically a grassy area, a sidewalk, and then your two units side by side.
And a big giant tree.
A big giant tree?
Yes, sir.
And would that obstruct your vision of anything?
Yeah, it could.
It didn't obstruct your vision, though, of Miss Phyllis Cattaneo, Ann Cattaneo, and John returning from Walmart, did it?
No, because they parked that vehicle in my driveway.
And the lights were on.
Yes, sir.
And on June the 30th of 2004, they had been out shopping, correct?
Yes, they have.
Preparing for the trip to Georgia.
Yes, sir.
And they returned to the house at about 30 minutes before the shooting, right?
Yes, sir.
And about that same time, you made a phone call to Ron, didn't you?
No, he called me, I believe.
But it was right at 9 o'clock, wasn't it?
I'm not positive exactly what time it was.
It was right at the time that Phyllis and John returned from Walmart, wasn't it?
I guess it was about that time, yes.
But you didn't say that to the police initially, did you?
No, I did, because at the time, that was the furthest thing from my mind.
That was, in fact, what you did, was you told them that you were on the phone with Ron when the shots were fired. That's what you told them, that you just got off the phone and you heard pop, 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 pop. Isn't that true?
I told them that I had been hearing firecrackers all night long. I said, that's precisely why I said that it sounded like firecrackers.
Did you or did you not tell the police initially that you just got off the phone with Ron when you heard pop, pop, pop?
Yes, I did.
Now, just got off is not 30 minutes, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. So what you were doing was you were giving Ron Blake a cover that, well, Ron was at home because I was on the phone with him, right?
No, I wouldn't give him a cover. Why would I give him a cover?
I don't know. Tell us.
There's no reason for me to give him a cover.
Have you started to cry out of your
No, I haven't.
right side of your face?
No, I haven't.
Are you going to really be able to demonstrate that to us?
I don't know. Right now I'm a little uptight.
Okay. You need any water? You need to stand
No,
up?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Well, the police made you real comfortable when you were at the police station, didn't they?
Yeah, they allowed me to smoke. That's all they did for me.
Asked you if
Thank
you needed a soda.
Yep, I didn't take any. Thank you.
Not allowed to smoke in public buildings normally,
Well,
right?
they let me smoke there.
Now, Chucky, we refer to as Chucky, as an adopted son, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's Chuck Catania. Charles Catania, or Catania, who is John Catanio's adopted son, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you're in the back of that police car there, you talk about Charles or Chucky Catania, right?
Yes, sir.
Remember that?
Yes, sir.
And there's reference that in there that in the statement, I mean, in the transcript, there's references to Chucky.
Your Honor, it's an improper question to ask her what's in transcripts. You can ask her a question.
Sustained.
Well, did I hear it right, or could you explain to us the reference in there about Chucky beating the hell out of John?
I didn't say that. Karen said that.
Well, could you explain that? That happened or not?
Yes, it did happen. It happened several times.
How many times?
From my knowledge, I had seen the effects of it for 4 times, and I was there during one time when Chucky did hit him.
Well, the reference was beat the hell out of him. Did he beat the hell out of
Well,
him?
he beat him all around his face, yes.
And John was a big man.
Well, John wouldn't touch him because John had gotten arrested for hitting Chucky, and he got in trouble for child abuse. So he would not lay his hands back on him.
And John's a much bigger man than Chucky.
Yes, he was. But he wouldn't touch him.
So there was a lot of tension over the years. From time to time, it'd flare up and calm down, flare up and calm down. But there was tension between John Catania and his adopted son.
Yes, sir.
Now, you also talked to us yesterday about calling Karen's sister, Nancy.
Yes, sir.
In your distraught and emotionally torn state of mind, trying to resolve this dilemma of what do I do?
Mr. Judge, I believe you said Nancy's sister. You mean
Janet, I'm sorry.
Karen Tobie's sister?
Karen Tobie's sister.
Thank you.
That's right. Well, anyways, it's Karen Tobie's sister,
Yes.
right? And you talked to her on the phone to help you with this horrible decision.
Yes, sir.
Now, isn't it true that you told her that Karen was responsible for John Catania's murder?
Yes, sir, I did.
And in response to that, Karen's sister said, well, if that's so, then look out after yourself.
That's right.
So there's nothing about what Karen Tobie's sister told you to do that would indicate, or should fairly indicate, that her sister had some type of inside knowledge other than what you told her as to what happened here.
No.
So her response to that was, look, I didn't do it, Karen did it. What am I to do? She says, look out after yourself.
Yes, sir.
When you went to the police on the 10th, they came and got you, is that, I'm sorry, on 10/5, they came and got you,
Yes, sir.
but you voluntarily went down there.
Yes, sir.
You didn't have a lawyer with you.
No, I didn't. I didn't have a lawyer, period.
Right. But you clearly thought it was in your best interest to go on down there.
It was in my best interest because I was having feelings of remorse, plus I couldn't live with myself. I had to get it out there.
Plus, you were fearful that you were about to be arrested, right?
Most definitely.
Okay. Because you had heard through various sources, including Ron, your husband, that Karen was saying that you shot John Catania.
Not through Ron. Ron didn't know anything about this.
Okay. He didn't know anything about it?
No, not till after.
They knocked on his door July the 1st about 1 o'clock in the morning, didn't they?
No, they came and got him on June the 30th, I believe. I think it was that night.
Okay. Well,
But he didn't know anything about it.
It's fine. But anyway, on October the 5th of 2004, you go down to the police station, and you've already told us you went down there to get information because you were fearful that you were going to be arrested.
On the 5th, I believe they called me in. Right.
But you went down.
That's not what I went there for. I didn't go there for information. They called me in.
Okay. But you thought it'd be a good way for you to get some information.
I didn't know what they were. I figured since I didn't do the lie detector test in Seattle, that was the first.
Objection, Your Honor. I'm going to move to strike. That's unresponsive.
Judge, I'd like to approach the bench.
All right, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I have to do something here outside of the presence of the jury, so I'm going to, it's not quite time for mid-morning break, but we'll have you go into the jury room for just a few minutes. It's not going to be very long. And again, you're under the usual instruction here not to discuss this case amongst yourselves in any fashion. All right, is there anything that anyone would care to put on the record before I admonish this witness as we discussed?
Nothing additional, Your Honor.
Judge, I'd at least ask the witness to be allowed to finish her answer so we know what she's going to say for just
All right,
for
the
proper
jury,
purposes.
let the record reflect the jury is not present. What was the, can you go back to that question?
Can you read back the question? Okay, thank you.
Question, okay, but you thought that would be a good way for you to get some information. Answer, I didn't know what I figured since I didn't do the lie detector test in Seattle.
It's not at all responsive to my question.
You need to go back a couple other questions, but I just wanted her to get her answer out because there were 2 or 3 questions. The whole purpose of it was you were going to get information, right? That's your purpose of going down. The witness is trying to explain, no, my purpose, or I thought what they want to talk to me about is such and such. And I just asked you about a clear answer for the record and leave
All
it.
right. Do you have anything further? Do you have anything further, Mr. Davis?
No, sir, none other than that.
You don't have a seat.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything further to add to your response to that question?
Yes, sir. And the reason was I had mentioned that I didn't do my lie detector in Seattle, so I took it that that's what they were calling me down to do.
Okay.
That's what I thought they were going to
That's
do.
probably an appropriate response to the question. However, I'm going to admonish you in this regard. References to lie detector tests, to the tests themselves, to the results of the tests, are forbidden under Florida law unless there has been an agreement of counsel. There is no such agreement. So you are not to mention a lie detector test in any fashion.
Okay.
Not taking it, not going to one, not the result of it, not anything. Do you understand? And if a response to a question would require that you refer to that in order to answer the question, we've got to have some signal or some...
To get into that at all, Your Honor, my question was...
Oh, I know, and her, but her...
It's a yes or no question. You went down there to get information, did you not?
No, okay, all right. As I've ruled, that's not responsive to your question. However, if in the future she feels that she can only answer a question by referring to a lie detector, I need something she can say so that we know.
Just ask the court.
Nobody speak to you or turn to you if it requires me to bring up that particular thing?
Yeah, just, Your Honor, I need to talk to yours.
Okay.
All right, but only about lie detectors, not
Okay.
about anything else
Okay.
at this point, okay?
But I would ask that I know you just did, she needs to understand the emphasis of your order, that it's not to come out, so.
It's not what?
The main order is she's not to talk about it at all.
Oh, absolutely. Do not mention
Right.
those words.
Right.
Is that clear to you?
Right.
Do you have any questions
We
about
almost
that?
came to that when he was asking me about my taking drugs.
I know
because-
that.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yes.
And we didn't get to that.
yes.
And so that's the kind of thing
Okay.
I want to avoid.
Okay.
Do you
that's fine.
understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Do we have to say anything to the jury? I'm going to sustain your motion to strike for non-responsive to the question. And it's probably better you don't.
Well, I don't want to cure it because it'll just call more attention.
I know that.
Judge, I'd object to strike it saying non-responsive. Even Your Honor said it's appropriate answer. She was being responsive. I'd ask that the court not cast what could be perceived as dispersions on the witness. Again, I think it's clear from the way the question was, it was responsive. And I just ask we leave it alone. I don't think there's any reason to say she did anything improper. Now, if she said it, the court's instructed her, but she was answering the question. As she even said that the question before, it was going to be perfectly responsive to explain why she was medicated. So,
Well, all right. And reconsider. I'm reconsidering this. You did ask her what she went there for. She did say, I was going there because I thought it was going to be a lie detector test because I didn't do it.
Your Honor, the question is right here. I got it right here on the screen. And it was, you went there to get information, did you not? Yes or no? That was the question. You went there to get information.
She was explaining what she went there to get, and I think her answer is not improper. It's not totally yes or no, but it's not improper in the way that she set forth. So I'm going to leave it alone. And we will move on. Okay.
All right.
Anything further? All right, call the jury back in, please.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ms. Blake, you were out in Seattle for the better part of a month. Is that correct?
A little over a month.
And you got back sometime in late August or starting into September, correct?
Late August.
About the time we started getting pounded with hurricanes.
2 days, actually a day and a half before.
And as a consequence of that, you weren't able to stay at the duplex because power outages, danger from the storms and so forth, correct?
We were there through the hurricane.
But did you lose power?
Yes, we did.
Did you have reason to go and stay at a beachside motel called the Del Air Motel?
Yes, sir.
And as a result of that, Karen started developing a new group of friends, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
And they included the motel manager,
Yes.
a friend of the motel manager's who lives over in Ocala, not to be confused with Jim Dowks, the attorney in Orlando, but a Jim Dykes
Dykes.
from Ocala, right?
Yes, sir.
And also a Nancy Hargett. Hargett?
I don't
Remember
know Nancy.
her? Remember a Nancy who Tony lived in the apartment behind the
Oh,
house?
yes.
That Nancy. In fact, that Nancy ended up kind of taken your place a little bit because she started driving Karen around quite a bit, didn't she?
Fine with me.
Relieved you of some responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So she started, taking over your role a little bit as far as Karen, as far as transportation, right?
Yes, sir.
And as a matter of fact, on October the 5th, after you had talked to the police at the Holly Hill Police Department, you were a little bit miffed or angry because they didn't come pick you up. Weren't they supposed to pick you up, Nancy and Karen?
That was after I'd spoken with the police.
Yeah, afterwards.
Yes.
Sure. And they were supposed to come pick you up and take you back to the duplex.
Right.
But some of the things that happened when the police were playing with your mind on October the 5th was like they insinuated that Karen really had a driver's license, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
And that she had been pulling a con on you all these years
Yes, sir.
and been using you.
Yes, sir.
And that hurt you, didn't it?
It pissed me off.
That pissed you off.
Yeah.
You are a, not my words, but your own self-admitted words, you are a bitch.
Yes, sir.
And you don't make any bones about it.
No,
do
I
you?
don't.
And you're also a control freak.
Totally.
A total control freak and a bitch, admittedly.
Yes, sir.
That's just the way it is.
That's the way it is.
And you were there on the 5th of October in that police station, and they're telling you, this is what your friend Karen has done. Here's a Florida driver's license. You've been driving her around for 4 years, and she could drive herself. And that, in your words, pissed you off.
2 years.
2 years, whatever. However number of years.
Right.
And also, there was other mentions about Karen implicating you in John's murder, right?
Yes, sir.
That pissed you off.
Yes, sir.
And the fact that they weren't there to pick you up, that pissed you off.
Yeah, because I called them and they were supposed to be there and they didn't show up.
And when you got home, Karen was home, wasn't she?
I don't recall if she was home right then or not.
But she eventually got home,
Yes.
and you gave her a whooping like she was your girl.
I slugged her. Yes, I did.
You slammed her.
Yeah, I did.
And you took her purse out, and you dumped it all over the floor. Where's that driver's license?
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
That you were fit to be tied.
I was very upset.
That was the 5th, right? And then Karen went up, Nancy took Karen away, and they went over to Tony's apartment, right?
I think at that point, I think she was with Polly at that point
Polly,
still.
okay. So that was Polly was another one of the new friends.
Yes, sir.
And they were kind of cutting you out of the picture.
Well, that kind of friend, I've never been in that part of the picture.
That's
Okay?
fine. But be that as it may, whatever you think about these people, the fact of the matter was, your state of mind was, you know what? Karen is distancing herself from me.
That was fine. I had the chance to do the things that I normally do.
But look, you still were dependent upon Karen for money, right?
No.
Isn't it true that Karen comes from a pretty wealthy family?
Yes, she does.
Did you see their house in Seattle?
Yes, I did. I stayed there.
It was a lot nicer than that duplex on 319 Center Avenue, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
It's on the side of the hill,
Yes, sir.
total glass.
Yes, sir.
How many stories?
2.
And you could
Actually,
see
3.
Overlook the 3 stories, and you could overlook
Puget
Seattle,
Sound.
the sound and everything. It's a multi-million-dollar home.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, isn't it true that Karen's dad was a big executive with Microsoft Corporation?
I have no idea what her father did.
Well, let me say this. $500,000 in the world of Karen Tobie and her dad isn't really that much money.
No, sir. Not at all.
And in fact, Karen over and over said, I don't care about that insurance money. What I care about is Louis.
Exactly. And I've stated that all along.
And you told Mr. Davis on direct examination that Ty Cooper called your house.
This was in the very beginning when we were looking for a gun.
He called your house.
Yes, sir. I would every time we would go by the shop and he was not there, but his vehicle was there, I had dropped my phone number on a piece of paper into his window.
Okay, and he called your house,
Yes, sir.
and your house is a landline,
Yes, sir.
and you had Bell South, right?
Yeah, I think at that time, I think I had Sprint.
Well,
I'm not positive.
doesn't matter.
because
You had a
switched.
landline, right?
Yes, sir.
So there'd be records of that phone call.
Yes, sir.
Also, what kind of, in your words, quote, pissed you off, close quote, was Karen was spending money like it was coming out of a faucet.
Yes, sir.
You even said, look, I want to know where the money is. I want a printout of what's going on with the bank account, right?
It didn't happen that way.
Well, you were concerned about where the money was going.
Right.
She paid Tony or Paulie's Harley Davidson payment, right?
Tony's.
She was paying Ed Foley's phone bills, right?
Yes, sir.
And you wanted to know, well, you've got an accounting background, don't you?
Yes, sir, I do.
And accounting and bookkeeping.
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, you were helping John out at his business to get
Yes,
his
sir.
bills and finances in order.
Yes, sir.
Because his finances were in total disarray.
Pretty much.
And you were coming to its rescue to get all that straightened out, who owed what to who, what bills he had, what people owed him.
Exactly.
But when you took over that, took charge of that, it was total financial chaos. Of who owed John money, for example.
It wasn't total chaos. I mean, John had a bad habit of taking the check, but not consolidating it with his what do you call him? His billing.
He wasn't a good businessman when it came to counting beans, right?
Oh yeah.
But
With the paper part of it, forget it.
Yeah, and you've got an accounting background, you've got a bookkeeping background, so you're a good bean counter. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I'm not. I hate doing taxes. I call on people like yourself to help me out, but John wasn't a good bean counter either.
No.
Was he? And you knew what John's finances were like, didn't you?
Basically, I didn't know the total picture because I was not privy to his bank account.
You knew that with that Home Depot contract that his business was getting stronger and stronger and more profitable.
Yes, sir.
Now, after Mr. Catania was shot, afterwards, within days, Mr. Cooper came to Catania Plumbing, where you were, and there were other people there, not just you. I believe that Karen's dad was there.
Yes.
And there were some other folks there, right?
Just her father and her sister.
You were there, and Mr. Cooper came to the shop.
Yes, sir.
So he didn't skip town. He was still around, right?
Yes, sir.
And he even came to the shop. And he came to the shop because he wanted his tools, right?
I have no idea why he came to the shop.
Didn't he ask you for his tools, and he was also owed some money?
That I don't know about.
Well, isn't it a fact that in the Catania Plumbing business, there weren't paychecks, people were paid in cash?
Yes, sir.
So isn't it true that just a couple of days after Mr. Catania was shot, Mr. Taishwan Cooper came to Catania Plumbing and said, I want the money, I'm sorry about Mr. Catania's death, but I'm owed money, and there's some tools here that I need to pick up.
I never heard any of that.
Didn't you tell him at that time, well, you need to talk to Karen about that because it's all in the estate and everything, and I'm not the person to talk to, you need to talk to Karen?
No.
And isn't it true also that at that time you gave Mr. Cooper Karen's number? Call Karen and deal with it through Karen. I don't have the authority to do that.
Number one, I didn't. I've never given him Karen's phone number. I've never given anybody Karen's phone number, ever.
Are you going to be able to do that demonstration for us?
I don't know. You're working on me.
Now, Ty is the type of person that, he's kind of low-key, isn't he?
Very.
And he was called by the people around the shop Coop, right?
I've only heard him being called Ty.
Ty. Only heard him called Ty.
Yes, sir.
You never heard him called Ron, have you?
No,
Nobody ever called him Ron.
no.
You were around because he was at the house. He did work around the house, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
He did sod work,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
He helped put up the fence.
Yes, sir.
So not only did he work in the plumbing business, he also did odd jobs around the house.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't unusual for Ty Cooper to be at the house.
No, sir.
He'd come up there sometimes for matters relating to Catania plumbing.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes he'd come up there to do work around the yard, like
Yes, sir.
put down sod,
Yes, sir.
put up a fence.
Yes, sir.
And all those times, John would be around sometimes, right?
Pretty much.
Well, John called him Ty, right?
Yeah, he called him
John
Ty.
never called him Ron.
No, sir.
You first stayed with some friends after the shooting,
Yes, sir.
and the friends would be the Foleys,
It was the in-laws.
the in-laws?
Yeah.
And on that night that Mr. Catania was shot, you heard him take his very last breath.
Yes, sir, I did.
That must have been traumatic for you.
Very traumatic. And you'll get your chair now, okay?
Just one side?
Yes, sir.
Now, Karen had called you from the house, right?
I don't know who called me.
Somebody called you from
Right,
the house?
somebody called asking me if John was at my side.
And so the shots were fired,
Yes, sir.
and some time passed because people assumed it was firecrackers or something, didn't know really what it was. And at some point in time, next door, Mr. Catania's mom tried to see what John was doing. Is that one eye or both eyes?
And this time it was both.
But anyways, she was concerned about John, and she tried to open the door, and she couldn't open the door, right?
No.
So that's when they called over to you.
No, she didn't try to open the door until after I came to the window and banged on the window and told her to call 911.
For whatever reason, somebody from the house called you and said, could you go outside and see about John, because he's been outside and we don't know.
No, they didn't ask me to go outside to see about John. They called me and said, is John over on my side?
Asked if he was over there.
Right,
Okay.
over at my
All right.
side.
And then you went outside to check on him?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But my point is, and for the benefit of the jury, because they have to determine the truth of these.
I'm going to object to counsel lecturing the jury in the middle of cross-examination. It's completely wrong.
That's sustained.
Well, could you help us out with how much time passed from the time that you heard the pop, pop, pops to the phone rang, and then you go outside?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I have no idea.
you've said anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes in your prior statement.
Yeah, that was just a total guesstimate.
Well, would it be fair to say, to try to get to the truth of the matter, that it was a substantial period of time? What, just instant?
No, it wasn't instant, no.
But the point being that when you got there, John Catania took his last breath.
Yes, sir. I observed.
You observed his chest?
chest heaving, and then it just.
Okay. Now, you're sure it was 5 shots?
No, I'm not positive it was pipe. I heard a bunch of, like I said, there were several firecrackers in the area. I don't know exactly how many it was.
Your window was wide open?
Yes, sir.
Curtains were open?
Yes, sir.
Lights are on?
Yes, sir.
You even have an attack cap, don't you?
Yes, I do.
as opposed to just a normal cat.
Right.
More like it's like a cat dog.
Yeah, he's quite vicious.
Growls
Yes, he
when
does.
anybody's around.
Yes, sir.
But he hadn't growled on June the 30th around 9:30, had he?
No, sir.
Hadn't growled just prior to the pop, pop, pop.
No, sir.
So as far as your attack cat was concerned, with the windows open, animal's got pretty good sense of smell.
Oh, yes, sir.
Good hearing.
Yes, sir.
Even if the lights were out, the cat could see,
Oh, yes.
because they're nocturnal.
Yes, sir.
But that cat gave you no indication that anything was amiss.
No, sir.
And you saw nothing.
No, sir. My back was to the window.
Did you look out the window when you heard the pop, pop, pop?
No, I didn't.
You knew right away what it was.
Not really.
You were right there, weren't you?
I was right there, but I wasn't right there.
You and Karen had talked a lot about, when's this going to happen?
Yes, sir.
That's what you say.
Yes, sir.
And you talked to us about July the 1st being an important date, right?
Yes, sir.
July the 1st being the important date because that's when Lewis was going to be taken away.
Yes, sir.
You weren't going to stand for that, were you?
No, sir.
No way in the world you're going to let anybody take baby Louie from you.
Not if I could. Not if I could do anything about it. No.
And in fact, many times when you had that gun, when you admit to having the gun, you were afraid that, you even say it, that you were going to go over and shoot John Catania right between his eyes.
Oh no, sir. I never said it like that. Now you're misstating my remarks.
Okay.
You are misstating my remarks.
Did you ever get so angry at John because you feared that you were going to lose baby Lewis, and because of the way that he had been beaten, your what equivalent of daughter Karen, that you wanted to drive his nose up into his brain?
I almost did.
You actually hit him.
Yes, I did.
Punched him one time.
Yes, I
because he'd
did.
been beating Karen.
Yes, I did.
And you wanted to do violence to that.
I am very averse to the men beating on women.
You will not stand for that, will you?
No, I will not.
And you will not also stand for anybody taking baby Louie from you.
No, I won't.
Not any of the Catania family.
Oh no, I'm perfectly happy with them being with
I
them.
understand that, but you wouldn't allow any of them to take
Not
baby
in the
Louie.
way that it was going to be done. No.
You even said, because you thought that they were going to come and spirit him away in the middle of the night about 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yes, I did.
And the clock was ticking, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
It was approaching 9 o'clock on June the 30th. And baby Louie at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning was going to be gone and you'd never see him again.
Yes, sir.
You weren't going to allow that to happen no matter what.
Well, I was and I wasn't. First, I was going to go with them on the trip, and then I decided not to.
You knew you weren't going to go.
I knew I wasn't going to go.
Because you had talked to Ron about having dinner the next week, hadn't you? You talked to him on the
Yes,
phone.
yes.
Yeah. So you knew that you weren't going to be in Georgia.
Right.
You knew you weren't going to be in Georgia because you knew that John Catania would be dead.
No, I didn't know that.
I have no further questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's about, well, by my watch, it's right at 10:15. As I mentioned before, that clock's 2-3 minutes fast. So we'll take our mid-morning break. So take, well, a couple minutes past 10:30, because that would really be 10:30. So that's a 15-minute break from now. You may not discuss this case with anyone amongst yourselves. You may not avail yourselves of any media of any kind. You should not form an opinion on this case or disposition until you've heard all the evidence and instructions on the law. Please turn your notepads over and leave those. Court's in recess for 15 minutes.